All right, you're welcome back. Thanks for staying with us on TVC Breakfast. Now, when the Senate resumes next month, one of the major bills it will be considering is the hate speech bill.
Yeah. Now, the Senate has pledged to give the bill speedy consideration when it is presented by the executive. And the bill will help to reduce to the barest minimum verbal attacks on expressions against individuals or groups. It would also end the spate of hate speeches and propose adequate punishments for hate preachers.
Now, but many are worried that the bill may infringe on the expression or freedom of expression. All right, I thought we had a report there, but let's just continue with our guest right here who's just joining us. He's a lawyer, Ahmed Abbas, a friend of the house. Good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning.
It's good to see you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so this hate speech bill, it's, you know, whipping up some level of debate and controversy. Some are already asking, is the criminalization of hate speech the way to go? Because then again, the question of freedom of speech, you know, arises.
Thank you. There's no right that is absolute. To every right enshrined in the Constitution, there are always exceptions. You have freedom of speech, but there is a limit to which you can actually give expressions to your thought. If your thought, your expressions, damages the reputation of another man, you are liable under the law. If you slander, you defame, there are laws to protect the dignity of people, of persons, and you can be liable under the law. Like I said from inception, all laws, they have their exceptions. Now, the question you are asking, is this the way to go? You see, when you are trying to solve a problem, you should analyze the cause of the problem. You should analyze why all of a sudden hate speeches is becoming a recurring decimal in our vocabulary. That's what I think those who want to provide solution to problem should be addressing. What is the root cause? Why all of a sudden is the Igbo man and the Hausa man throwing hate speeches at each other? That would help rather, because most times we just sit down, we have so many laws. In fact, going to pass another law, enact another law, to me is just an exercise in futility. And be honest, there are extant law adequate to cater for hate speeches as we speak today. I do not think that is the way to go. We shouldn't be making laws every time there are problems. We should sit down and ask, do we already have sufficient law? And meanwhile, the phenomenon you are trying to solve, what is the root cause? That's an intelligent way to solve a problem.
A legal luminary, Femi Falana, actually said recently that there are enough laws on hate speeches already. Now, in fact, if I have to, in one of the publications he put forward in cybercrime, he was quoting the Cybercrime Prohibition and Prevention Act of 2015, which says that I think section 24 and subsection 1 and section 26 says that anyone who, let me read, anyone who knowingly or intentionally sends a message or other matter by means of computer system or network that in section B, subsection B, says he knows to be false for the purpose of causing annoyance, inconvenience, danger, obstruction, insult, injury, criminal intimidation, enmity, hatred, ill will, or needless anxiety to anybody, or cause such a message to be sent, commits an offense under this act and should be liable on conviction to a fine of not more than 7 million naira or imprisonment for a term not more than 3 years or both, as the case may be. So it means all of these things are already provided. But if the government already knows that this law was passed in 2015, it's about 2 years old already. If the government already knows all of these laws exist, why the talk about a new law?
I think sometimes in trying to give the picture of we are doing our job, we are busy. So we need to fabricate what we are doing to just give expression to the society that we are working, and we are entitled to our pays and all the rest of them. The laws are, look, the problem of Nigeria is not about new laws.
It's implementing the ones that
the
are
ones
there.
you already have are more than adequate. Like you know, each time I hear people say, look, and we have hate speeches, they're already talking of special courts.
Exactly.
Special courts. The day you have headache, you create special courts. The day you have stomach ulcer, you create special courts. Special courts are not our problem. The institutions that we have presently to enforce those laws, we need to rejig them. We need to build the capacity of the people and instill in those officers and men who run those institutions the very objective of those institutions without necessarily looking at the body language of your employers.
But this hate speech, some already say, in fact, the acting president, well, when he was acting, he's now vice president, of course, Yemi Osinbajo has said that hate speech purveyors would be considered terrorists, and terrorism is a grievous offense against the individual and, of course, against the state. Isn't hate speech serious enough for us to actually tackle it in a way that, you know, we can meet it force with force?
Yes, I admit absolutely that hate speeches, you know, it's a serious offense because of the implication. Wars are started with words.
We can't forget the genocide in
words. So
in Rwanda.
It's a very serious thing. But like I said, analogically, I sometimes try to explain the problem of Nigeria. Nigerians are like a patient that has suffered the misfortune of being attended to by incompetent doctors over the years, and that has forgotten surgical equipment in their body system. And those equipments, they are rusted and affecting various organs. And now, they rush these patients to your hospital, and the patient is crying out of pain. And the doctor seems not to understand and telling the patient, after all, I'm not the cause of your problem. That is the situation. You see, we must sit down. I think the leadership doesn't know the extent to which Nigerians are actually suffering. And like I said, you see, when you sit down with somebody to try to understand his pain, it will give you, you know, the empathy to know there are millions of people who do not feel belong to this society. Call 99% of Nigerian youths and graduates today, give them an option to run out of this country.
And they will.
They will, without blinking an eyelid. Why will you get to such a situation where your citizens are running out en masse because they do not have any sense of belonging?
And hate speech itself is only a symptom of a deeper disease.
Okay. Deeper pain of, I don't belong here, whatever wants to happen. You know, when you get to a point, you just feel things can't be worse than this. That's exactly. So we need empathic leaders who will sit down and understand the pains of these people, because look, they have been shortchanged over the years for too long. When I see a leadership class says Nigerians need to make sacrifice, I said they should be the ones sacrificing. Nigerians have sacrificed. Look, when you go out to the road, you see an average Nigerian, say hard-working Nigerian. You see them early in the morning. They are already on the road, hustling. Sometimes you go to my 12 market, you will see somebody pushing a wheelbarrow all the way from my 12 to Ikorodu. 12 o'clock in the midnight, they are coming back. People are just asking for a decent environment to carry out their daily obligations, to live in an atmosphere of peace. The leadership must be moral enough to know, look, the problem is that people feel isolated, they feel cheated, they feel exploited, they feel dehumanized, they don't feel belong. And sometimes I say it with a sense of responsibility. If you listen to the younger generation, some of them are even calling for a revolution. Why? Because they are tired, they just seem not to have a sense of belonging. And the only way is that inspire people with hope by a performing system, a system that impacts people's life, a system that when they extray their life 2017 and 2016, they should be able to know we are moving towards the right direction. But when a man is stuck, you looked at your life for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, there is no progress, and you are not even seeing the progress. Every Nigeria basically is a government. You tar the roads in your street, you provide your security. You build schools, private schools paid by parents. You build houses for yourself. You buy 4 or 5 generators in the office and in the house.
Your borehole for
your
yourself?
boreholes, you provide, you are a water work. You are a ministry of water resources and all the rest of them. So sometimes you want to sit down and ask yourself, what can I as an individual actually say I'm benefiting from my state or my government?
So hate speech is only an eruption from all of these frustrations that Nigerians have had to.
And so what the government needs, let me tell you. You see, if you don't understand the psychology of people, men everywhere are the same. Their expectations are the same. People just want, how can I get my daily bread in an atmosphere of peace? Those are the 2 basic needs of people. I want to be able to wake up in the morning, go to work, make money, and that money should be sufficient to take care of my family. I don't want violence, I want peace. Those are the basic needs. If our government
and maybe be able to predict and say, look, if I put in this much work, this is how much reward I can look forward to. Now, there are concerns that this hate speech, coming back to the real issue here that we're talking about, could be used to silence political dissent and, you know, the inherent threat to freedom of speech that we talked about earlier. What are the dangers if this hate speech law actually becomes reality?
For me, I think the legal system is robust enough to handicap any government that wants to think they can infringe on the rights of Nigerians. Our systems are robust enough, and we have the mechanism to ensure that no government can actually, you know, inhibits Nigerians from giving expression to whatever. But like I said, there's no right that doesn't have its own. So we need to also enlighten, educate ourselves that, look, there is a limit. There's a way you can give expression to your anger and your frustration without necessarily jeopardizing, you know, the collective sanctity of the society. And that is what we must be preaching at this point in time. But nevertheless, we must constantly address the issue of injustice in the society and the lack of impact on the lives of the people. Because like I said, I'm a student, I'm born here. I have the frustrations I've been hearing over the year has not abated. It's a continuous this thing. Even Chukwuma Ndiogo, as far back as 1960, talked about corruption in his coup d'etat, 1966. Until yes.
And we're still talking about the same.
1966. See, if you peruse and interrogate the speech, the statement by Chukwuma, you just ask yourself whether anything has actually changed in Nigeria. So the government must be responsible. Look, you can't deny evidence. When you impact people's life, nobody can confuse them. If you work in an environment, an organization that is like home to you, you come to work with joy. Yeah. Nobody will try to hoodwink you. You understand me? But if you also work in a hostile environment, no matter the public relation and advert and marketing they're trying to do, you know within yourself. It's like going to a restaurant to eat a food that gave you running stomach. And the owner of the restaurant is busy advertising and doing public relations that she runs the best restaurant in town. Your
experience will be the best teacher at that. Well, you talked about Emeka Njogu now. Yeah. It's the same thing when Nnamdi Azikiwe and the others were campaigning in 1960 and 1964 about basic amenities. We'll provide this. It's the same thing Shagari campaigned in 1979. In 1980, it was the same thing MKO campaigned with in 1993. It was the same thing in 1999. So we're still talking about basic amenities until now. Roads, electricity, the same thing. Issues of security, housing, and all of that. Nobody's talking, in fact, we've not even graduated to the level of talking about science, technology, inventions, and all of that.
Going to the moon.
Now, a lot of people have accused the political class of even being, when it comes to hate speeches, they are even the ones who lay this foundation in the first place. We just take back example from 2015. We saw how divisive the election that time was. Now, is the solution really more political than even the legal way of going about things?
Absolutely. Like I said from inception, we have abundance of laws to take care of major issues. So duplicating laws and duplicating institutions and duplicating this thing is actually not our problem. The problem the fundamental problem is that, let me speak on behalf of the average Nigerian. They feel marginalized. The system is so skewed. The political class have hijacked the apparatus of governance and looting our common wealth. You see, when you have 1 million naira to be shared by 10 persons, and one man decides to appropriate 990,000 naira, leaving just 10,000 naira for the other 9 persons, the kind of commotion, the kind of dissatisfaction, the kind of bitterness and anger, because what it means is that you will see somebody, it's only in Nigeria that you see your political class. Look at Barack Obama 8 years ago. Look at his picture and take Barack Obama's picture 8 years after. This guy came, handsome looking guy with black hair.
No gray hair.
Looking like a model. 8 years down the line, the stress of office has given him wrinkles, his neck leaner, and gray hair. X-ray your political leaders. They came in like Abbas, lepascious like me, but most time they will go out with bigger head, wider nose, bigger tummy. An indication that these people are basically just enjoying the office. Look, if you work, governance is a serious business. When you work, the strain will be on you. It will tell on your physique. It will tell on your intellect, because you know, you think constantly. What's leadership? Leadership is about solving people's problems.
So is there a danger that even what you're saying now, in the future, down the line, could be counted for hate speech, where people cannot speak out their minds? What are the likely dangers to democracy if, you know, something like hate speech actually becomes law? What really are the ramifications? How far should hate speech go? Is it, you know, some are already questioning, is it going to be for the common man? Would it be for the bourgeoisie? Would it be for everybody? Would it cut across board?
All along, all the laws you have always been in favor of the big boys at the top. It's how many times somebody stole a phone the other day, and I think I can't remember vividly. Court sentenced him to almost about 50 years imprisonment, and you have people who steal billions of naira, and they have the wherewithal to bog down the system, and they are working free. Some of them from 1999, 2003, they are still in court because they can employ the services of lawyers who can bog down the system for the next 10 years. All you just need to do, give them 10% of whatever you have looted, and they help you to ensure that the system, your case remain in court for the next 10, 20, 30 years. Like I said, it's not about the laws. It's just that our leaders must become a little bit moral. I'm not saying, no, we are not, nobody is a saint. They should know that the essence of governance is for the interest of the people. And most times when they are trying to, they want power and all that, look, for you to be acceptable to people, serve them. When you serve them, you become a hero, lifetime hero.
All right, as we round off now, generally, certainly hate speech, nobody wants it, and nobody is not desirable for any society. And right now, as government is willing, from what we see, that they want to stamp it out, where should they really start from?
Very simple. Right. Very simple. They should come down from their high horses and come down to the level of the average Nigerians. Gather them and ask them, what is the cause of these hate speeches? Why are you throwing hate speeches at each other? And let them be sincere enough to tell you that, look, you are aggravating these speeches. The hate speeches have been aggravated by the manner. Look, if you have a driver driving you recklessly, reckless driving, driving you recklessly, jumping into potholes and all the rest of them, and the driver keep telling you, please, just keep calm. You can't be calm. You are bound to give expression to your fear and your annoyance. That's exactly what is happening. We are being driven in a manner that is not comfortable. That's why, you know, analogically, I do tell people, I say, look, when you fly an aircraft and there's no hitch in the flight, most times the cabin is usually very quiet. It's either people are sleeping, they are reading newspaper, or they are gisting in low tones. But once you see a commotion
some kind
in
of
the cabin, just know that there's a problem emanating from the cockpit. So these hate speeches have been precipitated by the actions of even our leaders. Their expression, like I told you, like I said on a platform, IPOB, Kano, and all the rest of them. The Niger Delta militants and all the rest of them. Ariwa, all the rest of them. It's just noise emanating from the cabin of an aircraft because there's a problem coming out from the cockpit.
Fantastic
so we should
imagery
be able
there.
to sit down and ask them what is the problem and how can we douse this. That is the only way to.
Very good imagery that you've just given us. Right. Ahmed Abbas, thank you so much for your contribution on TVC Breakfast this morning. Look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.